guys, welcome back to Clearly Becoming, a podcast all about inspiring ambitious 20 somethings to navigate the chaotic career journey and just life as well. And this is your reminder that you can be ambitious and confused at the same time. I know I am. And today we have a special guest, Erica Sommer, and she is a freelance marketer, co-founder of House of Marketing, which is HOM for short, which has 400 plus community members. Also has an interest in photography, is a Substack writer and aspiring author. She has gone from Vancouver, Paris to London, and she also is just someone who has a multitude of experience and multiple identities as well, which we'll get into, which I think is so cool and so important to just realize that you can hold multiple things at a time. But yet she hasn't identified herself as a consistent person. And so we're going to get into what consistency actually means and how action and consistency creates that clarity. And so welcome, Erica Sommer. We're so excited to have you here on Clearly Becoming.
So excited to be here. Thank you.
So Erica, you moved from Vancouver to Paris to London, and I want to hear more about your move and how that kind of shaped you, your identity. Do you ever feel kind of out of place throughout just moving everywhere, and what the different cultures kind of, how they shaped you and how they grew you? And yeah, where feels like home to you?
I love that. I think that's a really great question. I originally was born in Canada, Victoria, BC.
Mhm.
And for me, I grew up on an island. So my dad always refers to it as the Hawaii of Canada. And I always like to joke that I'm actually from the fake part of Canada because where I live, it doesn't actually ever snow. It snows maybe like once or twice a year. I grew up there in a really, really small town called Victoria. And for me, I spent my entire 24 years of living, growing up there. I had traveled a little bit, but I would definitely say I always had this kind of feeling inside of me where I felt like I wasn't quite settled and I wasn't really feeling like where I was from. Yes, it was home, but it wasn't where I needed to be or where I like should have been probably.
Mhm.
So I started having that feeling probably when I was turning 19, 20 years old. And then the feeling just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I knew I'd always wanted to move. For me, I really struggled with figuring out how to do that.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people can relate where you come from a really small town and you have all these incredible ambitions and passions, but then you're quite limited by just the environment that you're in. So when I turned 24, just shortly after the pandemic, decided now was the time. It was now or never. After the world had shut down for so many years, it felt like this
You're
is
ready.
kind of it. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, basically I decided to apply for a master's at that point, and it was very much just a really great way to bridge myself to taking that move and to taking that first step. I've been now living in London for the past 4 years, and I also lived in Paris for about 4 months, 6 months, about that length of time. And it's been incredible. I think each city has taught me a lot, including my hometown, my home city. And yeah, I've just absolutely loved it. To answer your question, like how have the culture shaped me and have I felt a bit out of place? I think to answer the out of place question, that's very much yes at first, but now not so much because I'm sure people who've grown up around the world and who've probably lived in far more cities than I have can understand that a home is very much not a place, it's more of a feeling. And it's also about how you create that within yourself. So yeah, it's taken me some time, but I think over the years I've managed to figure out that yeah, for me it's not necessarily a place, it's more like the people and the connections that I have around me that can give me that sense of belonging and also like that sense within myself. And yeah, I think definitely the cultures have really shaped me just as a person. I think, you know, these, especially London, it's so incredibly diverse. You can meet pretty much anyone and everyone in this city. So I've learned so much and I've connected with people from all over the world now.
How has the education systems been different from Canada to the UK and the EU?
I went to school my entire life. I did my, primary education and secondary education in Canada, of course, and then I also did my undergraduate degree. So my first time in university in Canada.
And did you do that in marketing too?
No.
Okay.
So actually, my undergrad was in something entirely different to marketing. People don't even know what it is usually, but it's called health informatics science.
Oh, wow.
Or health information science or health informatics. Education in Canada, it's not as expensive, for example, if you're going to like university or college after high school as say compared to like in the United States. It's much more affordable, which that's amazing. Like really thankful for that. I think it really depends on the school and the program, I would say, because like my master's it was a way smaller cohort, and it
Mhm.
was, yeah, you had like a lot more time, like just like to work with other people in your cohort. And
Mhm. Yeah, no, definitely.
yeah.
That's interesting that you went to the health of science towards marketing.
Yeah.
What made you want to make that switch?
Like the switch into marketing?
Yeah.
Okay. Probably because I absolutely like I hated like health informatics. Like
What made you go into health of science?
yeah, yeah, really good question. I think for me just like not knowing myself enough.
Yeah.
And I was so young at the time. Like I was what, 17 when I
Yeah.
had to make that decision. So for me, I always took the advice of my mom, and I realized that while it's, yes, it's cheaper to go to university in Canada, it's still a lot of money, and a lot of time and investment. So I wanted to make it worth my while. So I thought that in order to do that, I wanted to pick a degree that I was guaranteed a career
Mm,
afterwards. So it was almost like a safe bet.
yeah.
I didn't choose it because I felt like, oh, like this is actually what I want to
Mhm.
do. I was coming much more from the mindset of, I just need a job. I just need any job. I just need to make
Mhm.
money, and then I can create something that I like on
Yeah.
top of that. But as opposed to like, I want to find joy in like what I do every day.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you had to go back again and do it over, like, what advice would you give your younger self in choosing a major?
Yeah, I think probably just like take your time. Don't be so stressed out. Like try not to stress out. Easier said than done. I'd be like,
Yeah.
I got you. I understand where you're coming from. But really try to use the time to explore and kind of figure out what you actually want to do. Everyone says that,
Mm,
but now in hindsight, I understand why everyone says that
yeah.
because it makes a lot of sense. But of course, when you're that age, I get it. The world feels like it's closing in on you, and if you already feel so old when you're 20 years old, which is crazy to think about. Like
It is
that's
crazy.
wild.
Such a baby.
Yeah, exactly. And you're just like, you have a lot to learn and grow through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would probably say like chill. Honestly, like girl, chill. Like like you're good. On take your time.
Mhm.
You're gonna figure it out. Don't worry so much about the results,
Yeah.
and enjoy the process more. So
Yeah. Definitely trusting the process. Something that had just gone through my head is that detachment is literally like the antithesis of
mm,
trusting the process. It's
yeah,
like you're forcing something to happen.
yeah,
Even though like the process is so daunting and it's uncomfortable,
yeah,
it really just like sitting in that really helps you identify like what you want
yeah,
in life.
definitely.
So you're a growth marketer, freelance, and you dabbled in DJing.
Yeah.
You have a passion for photography. You did a little bit of modeling, and now you're also an aspiring author. And so you also create this community called the House of Marketing, and you talk about multi-hyphenate people. And so I want to hear how you kind of define a
Mm.
multi-hyphenate person. And you seem like one yourself, just with these multiple interests. How you navigate through all of those.
Absolutely. I would say very much so multi-hyphenate to the max. I've realized that just over time and throughout like my life and my career as well, I just really enjoy doing a lot of different things. I always like to identify as a creative person, and I think I am, and I think pretty much everyone is in some capacity. Like we all have the capability to be creative and to create something. And I think to be creative and also a multi-hyphenate, they go hand in hand. I think you can't really be one without the other in some way, because like I just think that the world has so much to offer in this way where you can learn, you can grow, you can build. And for someone like me, I like to just do it all. I get
Mm,
more energy by doing more things. And the more I adventure out into the world, the more I feed back on, and the more I realize like, wow, there are so many things out there that I just like want to be part of and I want to learn and grow from. And I would also say like, we have so much information now at our fingertips. Like we have the internet, and also if you're living in a city like London, or you can also be coming from a small town, but when you connect with other people and when you learn from them, your mind just opens up so much. And I think it's really easy to kind of be swayed into this multi-hyphenate path
yeah.
in some way. And also I would say like naturally, like I don't know why for the past however long, like in previous years, there's been a movement or like an ask for people to place themselves into a singular box. I think as human
Mhm.
beings, like we feel far more comfortable when there's a clear label. It's like, oh, you are a marketer. Oh, you are like a writer. You are a business analyst, like whatever the title may be. But the truth is that I don't think any single person like can actually fit into a singular
Yeah.
box. There are so many different identities and roles that we can all play. So I always like to think that we're all like multi-hyphenates just to some degree, as like we're all creative people at the
Mhm.
same time. To ask yourself, especially to ask someone who has really not lived a lot, like a long time, or to even have experienced all that much, to just pick one thing is kind of
Mhm.
crazy to me. And I also think that for me, like being a multi-hyphenate, and if you embrace that, there's so much opportunity and strength and a lot of joy and also opportunity that can come from that. The more I explore all these different areas of my life, the more I realize there's so much overlap and there's so much I can learn from each
Mhm.
kind of avenue and apply within the other. So
Yeah.
I don't try to look at it as into like separate streams, but more so just I'm almost like threading like a larger rope into like the
Mm.
person that I'm becoming.
Yeah, I like that analogy. Yeah,
Yeah.
and definitely about the label thing about fitting in. I mean, it definitely also creates kind of like an attachment with people. And I feel like then once you lose that label, it's really hard for you to like bounce back from it.
Yeah, because you're lost and like who are you without that singular
Exactly.
label? And you're kind of like in a free fall,
Hmm.
right? So I think all the more it's important to
Yeah,
kind of
diversify. It's
yeah,
like in finance, you always have to
exactly.
diversify your assets.
That's how you make real money, not
Exactly.
by just a single stock. That's the
That's
analogy.
the analogy. It's also with, I feel like burnout. What I define burnout is more of that you're not aligned with what you're doing. And
Hmm.
I think that can also happen if you're just so set in one mindset or one thing because you're just doing something that maybe you've evolved out of or that you're changing out of or you're not looking at it through a different lens. And so by
Yeah,
having these multiple things, you can kind of get more energy just from like taking it and then, as you said, kind of threading it together, which is really cool.
absolutely. Yeah.
And so tell me more about HOM and how it began, because you said it, when I was looking at it, it began over like a dinner and you started it because you were bored of networking and just how it kind of
Yeah.
was in the traditional sense.
Yeah, HOM is very much just it's brought so much, I think, joy and also opportunity, just like incredible connections into
Hmm.
my life. So very, very, very thankful for it. I guess to dive into how it began, I think from just almost like a tiredness of
Mm.
trying to find this place or this feeling or these certain kinds of people that we just like weren't able to. And so I'm a co-founder of HOM, of course, and I co-founded it with two other like they're my best friends basically. And it all happened because we were, fresh out of our masters
Hmm.
and we were out in the world. And for the past 2 years, we've been told and had been working towards this degree. And then once we had that, well, then a job was of course guaranteed. And there was kind of an expectation, I think, to find and land your dream job like straight off the bat, or also just I think establish this incredible network like right out of university. And I think there's a lot of promise as well, especially when you are in university and you have an alumni network. And that's not to say that doesn't exist, but I think there's still like a lot, like a huge gap there as well to really connect with the right kinds of people or like the people that you want to say as an individual. It can be hard to find those people. And I think it can be hard to navigate this world, especially when you're out of school and you're trying to find a job and you're trying to find your group and your people. And
Hmm.
you're just, again, kind of in this free fall. So, yeah, it was created out of a need, I think, for ourselves, first of all, and just out of a desire to kind of make whatever we wanted to have happen to us, like for us because we realized no one's going to come knocking on our door and just give us like what we're asking for, and that being the opportunities that we wanted to, go work in certain companies or job fields or yeah, agencies or whatever, and then also wanting to connect with those people that we knew and like
Hmm.
were within London and within Europe, but we just weren't able to access or like we weren't
Right.
able to get in touch. So yeah, it all started around actually in my friend's flat. Conversation sparked, and it actually was originally the idea was to do a marketers dinner, so like a supper
Oh,
club.
yeah,
We love a supper club. Everyone loves a
love
supper
it.
club. This was back in 2024, so supper clubs were all the rage. Yeah, and then it quickly evolved into becoming a community, connect other founders, entrepreneurs, creatives, anyone who is wanting to build something and maybe has already started or
Hmm.
who hasn't started or is in the middle of building something to kind of like build a community around that to also like support people who are trying to bring together like a vision that they have in their head. We've done like film premieres with a good friend of mine who's like a filmmaker. So we worked with like a whole range of people and we've done events in Paris, London, Amsterdam, and soon to be New York actually.
Wow.
Maybe when you're there,
Yeah.
you can come. But yeah, it's all about, I think, creating connection and creating a space for people to it's not so much networking. I would
Hmm.
say it's more of a way to authentically connect with people and
Hmm.
then, all those lovely things that you get from networking, like opportunities or jobs or
Yeah.
advice or whatever it may be. It's a natural byproduct of just
Right.
a natural connection between individuals.
And do you kind of find these authors and these podcast hosts, or do they also kind of like come to you? And like, how does one join this like
Yeah,
community?
absolutely. So I would say it's really organic, and also H1, it's a small like community, and it's purposely so because we understand, and I think we've all experienced as well, what can happen when a group or a community or whatever it may be becomes oversaturated. And like that's not to say that's a bad thing. It's just I don't think quite aligned to what we're trying to build. It's I would say definitely just keeping numbers lower, so there's way more of like a close knitness and an
Mhm.
opportunity to like really connect with others. So to answer the question, like how do these people that we say like spotlight? So we like to call it like it's an H1 like community spotlight. So I think it comes from a multitude of things. I think when you're building anything and when you're really trying to build something, there's I think a lot of power in speaking something into existence.
Mm.
And the only way to do that is just to talk to people about it.
Yeah.
So I would begin talking to my colleagues about it. I would begin talking to people that I would meet at other events about it. I would just basically talk to everyone about it. And I think through that natural conversation, just these people would kind of come into my life and
Mhm.
I would just see the opportunity to ask, hey, do you want
Yeah.
to do something? So it came from a lot of reaching out, I would say, but not in a cold DM kind of way.
Right.
I would also say like one example that I always love, and we have actually done an HOM event with her before, and she's now also like one of my closest friends, I would say, in
Mhm.
London. She's an author. I saw her profile on Instagram, and I saw that she was also a founder, and I just really liked her vibe. And so what I did is this was kind of like a cold DM. I just like sent her an Instagram message. I sent her a DM on Instagram and it was like, hey, I really like your energy. Like, I love what you're building. Told her a little bit about HOM. Like, would you like to meet for coffee? And then she replied, and we did an event with her. But also, more so, I also work with her now. She's one of my closest friends here in London. She's incredible. I've also like learned so much from her. There's a lot of like different ways that it's come, but I think it's just more so just not being afraid to just
Yeah.
ask people and reach out and see what happens.
Yeah. And it's definitely scary. I mean, I think with social media, it's so easy to just kind of hide behind the
Yeah,
screen and,
yeah,
it's easy. Well, it's not easy to like cold call people and like email, but I do think there is something about like, yeah, I can just send a message and like let
yes,
it go. But I also think there's something of like meeting people in person. As you said, like not networking, but connecting with people and just sharing your story in your
yeah.
office and just with your friends. And you never know like what
You
can
never know.
instigate from that and just not being afraid to take the plunge. Yeah.
100%. And I think exactly as you say, but also going into it with, I think, no expectation or just like, I think you can't overrate
Mm.
kindness. I think number
Yeah.
one, being really nice to people can get you so far in this world.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
blows my mind every single time. If you're just nice to someone, like the chances that they're going to reply and actually help you out if you're just simply like asking nicely are much, much higher than I think a lot of people ever realize or come to expect. Whenever someone or like a friend comes to me and they're like, "Oh, like I don't know, like should I reach out to them?" I'm like, "Yes, give them a nice message, like it's all good." And if they say no, like that's all good. But there are so many people in this world who, and especially like just like within the creative field and like whatever industry or field you're in, anyone who's had any kind of success, like they haven't gotten there by themselves. A lot of those people remember those people that helped them get
Yeah.
to where they are. So yeah, a lot of the times people are so willing to help and to lend a piece of advice or to have a conversation with you. And if they're not, well, there's going to be someone who is. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's also the kind of like the power of reciprocity of like what you like take and give. It's
yes,
like the same
yeah,
same thing. I kind of want to get into consistency. And
good.
so I feel like a lot of people struggle with not being consistent, especially because they don't have like a clear goal in mind and things like that. And
Mhm.
so they're kind of waiting to get clear first, but I feel like consistency creates clarity. And so I was wondering like what would you say to somebody who struggles with
I would say I have struggled with consistency
this?
my entire life, and it has been something that I've had to teach myself. And so if you struggle with it,
Is there an
it's all good.
example, like a specific example?
I mean, for the longest time, in like probably up until like 2 years ago, I was not a consistent
Mm.
person. If you struggle with it, it's all good because you can teach yourself. I think
Yeah.
it's very much a skill. It's just a mindset and it's a way, it's all about habit formation. And I think consistency, as you say, like consistency, I think breeds clarity. And I think if you are able to be consistent in anything in your life, no matter what it is, it's not a possibility that you won't achieve whatever it is that you're consistent
Yeah.
about or working towards because it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
And it's really, really, I think, humbling, but also it's almost like a boring truth that I don't think a lot of people want to hear about. I think everyone wants like a magic pill. Everyone wants a magic fix, or
Mhm.
like often is saying like, oh, I can't get whatever it is that I want because I'm just not able to have it, or because I'm too late, or because I'm not consistent, or because the opportunities aren't there for me. I think a lot of the time for a lot of things in life, you can create your own luck, and I think
Mhm.
creating your own luck comes from being consistent. If you're consistently going to events or reaching out to people on LinkedIn or organizing coffee chats, you're going to increase your surface area for luck to kind of
Yes.
transpire into your life. I think consistency is just it's like the formula to basically everything. Yeah, it's one of those things that I think takes time. Of course,
Mm.
consistency equals time.
Yeah.
It is, if you can learn to do it, and if you can find the way that you can be consistent as an individual.
Consistency is like you're planting the seeds, and it takes time for the plant to grow and things like,
Yeah.
and you can't always see it's happening, but it is because you are constantly putting in the effort to make it happen. Something will come
Yeah.
from it. You don't know what it will be, but it will happen. And so, what is kind of the best habit you've formed, and how did you stick to it?
Yes. So I have a lot of like small habits I think that I do in my life. I would say two, two are probably like okay, three. All right.
I know it's
One,
hard to pick.
yeah, I know with this. One of the best habits I've ever built.
Mhm.
Just exercising
Mhm.
regularly. You need it.
What kind of exercise do you do?
So I do a different range. And I think,
Mhm.
okay, that's also part of the consistency factor.
Yeah.
For me, kind of like I said, like I like to do different things and I can get bored easily. So
Mhm.
for me, I've had to also like let go of what consistency looks like and understand, okay, like what is the core consistent habit that I actually want to build? So as an example, like exercise, right? Before I was like, oh, I want to run. I want to be a runner,
Mhm.
which is great. And I would be getting my exercise through this. But for me, I wasn't able to consistently run as much as I wanted to. And so
Mhm.
that's when I would give up, right? So I think for me, it's about for exercise, actually like listening to what I need. So if it's a run, or if it's a workout class where I'm like lifting weights, or if it's a
Mhm.
walk outside, or if it's just stretching, like there to build consistency in like a multitude of ways where I can actually like meet that goal and still be
Mhm.
consistent and like in that actual core habit. That's like been super helpful. So yeah, to answer your question, right now I'm in my phase of I go to the gym and I like lift weights, which has been super empowering and really, really
Yes.
fun.
I love strength training. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah.
I always bang on about the importance of establishing core values in
Yes.
order to find that alignment, because I feel like so many people are like, follow your intuition and feel what feels good to you. But what is my intuition? And
Yeah.
I don't hear that voice that everybody's talking
Mm.
about. So that's why I feel like it's so important to come back to your values, and that will really like clarify things for you. And so I think that thing about exercise as like what is the one thing you want to get out of it? Do you want to look good? Which honestly, valid point. I feel like a lot of exercise comes from that at first.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
then
Yeah.
for me it's also just like I love the routine. Like I just love
That's fun.
just having it in the morning and doing it, and it makes me feel good. Like that is one of the main drivers. And so I feel like once you establish that, then it's easier to not let like the spectrums get to you. It's like, oh, I need to do it every single day.
Yeah.
But like, if you do that, will you feel good?
Yeah,
Like, will you?
exactly. Yes.
And just like getting to know yourself and trialing and erroring
Yeah.
and figuring it out that way.
Yeah. A really, really good point. And actually, I was having a similar conversation to this one, actually about exercise.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. I think, yeah, finding out the
Yeah.
why you're doing this habit it goes hand in hand with actually like being able to consistently do that habit.
Hmm.
For me, yeah, definitely when I was younger, I think it was very much like I want to look good for sure. But that's changed. And I also realized that that was my value, I was not able to be consistent in my exercise because I would get burned out. Like I wasn't enjoying it because I don't think that reason why was necessarily fully aligned with it. Or I'm not too sure why. Maybe it just became less important. Maybe
Hmm.
it just was too maybe surface at the time. I honestly don't know. But I was able to do it for a certain point. But then after a while, or maybe after I felt like, oh, I'm good, then I would fall off the
Yeah.
bandwagon. So there's that. So for me, I think now my why, it's like changed over the years. But similar to yours, it's very much like a mental feeling that I get now.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely
100%.
keeps this in check.
Yes, it's crazy. Like, if you talk to me on a day where I have exercise versus
Hmm.
I haven't, two completely different people, it feels like. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. But also I think for me, like a big why is just spending time with myself. I've
Mm.
realized that when I exercise and I am actually just within my body, it can be a really meditative state. And it's just that time and a reminder that I'm giving time back to myself, especially like I have a really, really busy schedule or a busy day or I'm really stressed out. I'm still taking that time and I'm still investing it back into like myself and my body. So I think, yeah, that's probably become my why to just be like, I got you, girl. Like, don't worry. Like, I'm gonna look out for you. Yeah.
Yeah, doing something for yourself.
Yes,
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely. And so you also, in your Substack article, I know you just recently read Atomic Habits by
Yeah.
James Clear, which great book. I think
So good.
everybody should read it. It's
Yeah.
also, I love The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. It's a very similar one to it, but
Okay.
I don't know. For me, it goes into a little bit more detail about like what habits actually are and like how like the brain create like what the
Yeah.
brain habits, which I know James Clear also talks about, but I don't know. Read it and let me know what you
I
think
will.
about, and maybe you can do in your
I
Substack
will
a difference.
definitely
I'd love to
compares.
hear.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do a LinkedIn post too and be like, hey, what do you guys think?
Yes,
Yeah.
love
Love
that.
that.
You talk about kind of making frictionless habits on just even like a couple pages a day reading is great, and or a 5-second video is better than none. But I kind of wanted to push back on that because I recently had somebody on the podcast and they talked about friction maxing. And I feel like in our day of age where everything is super convenient and we just have everything at the fingertips and
Yeah.
just we are constantly, scrolling, doom scrolling. It's like we can't get enough consumption. I feel like we need to inconvenience ourselves more and have that kind of effort put back into our lives in order to achieve where we want to go and push ourselves further. And so what do you think about this?
Yeah. I mean, I love that. And I'll definitely add that book to my list. Like that's one of my other like favorite habits is reading every day.
Yeah.
I read every day, twice a day. And I
Perfect.
have for the past like 2 years and it's been the greatest thing ever. You learn so much. It's crazy what you do when you pick up a book again. You're like, wow, oh my gosh, like this exists. So yeah, friction maxing. I think that's a really, really interesting point, and I agree. I think to a lot of an extent, for sure. However, I don't know for me, and this is just like what I've kind of come to understand. I think for me, when I'm trying to form a habit, I need to break it down and then I can add in that friction maxing. So I think I realize, I also think too, like when you're trying to build a habit, friction kind of naturally comes in at a certain point because, of course, with James Clear, the whole idea is that you have to build consistency. You have to build that routine. So, another point is like habit stacking, for example. So every day after I make my coffee, my habit stacking is I make my coffee, I go grab my book and I read 20 minutes or however long I have. So that's become like my habit stack. I would say with friction maxing, I think I do friction maxing a lot in like other areas of my life, but with the habits that are a bit more delicate, for example, or the ones that I can easily see kind of just being tossed to the side, I need to make those super easy for me. So the point that you bring up about doing, say, like a 5-second video every day, that came from the desire and like for me, like the goal of I want to create content for myself because in my career, I create content for so many other clients and other businesses and all that kind of stuff. So breaking it down into something that I can easily achieve and I'm not just going to kind of toss to the side because, oh, I have these other priorities. That's why it's like nice to have like that frictionless kind of like easiness. And you're like, it's only 5 seconds. Of course, anyone can do 5 seconds. However, on the other side of that coin with friction maxing, I think it really depends person to person how you use that and where that comes into your life. For me, I've never had an issue with doing hard things. I kind of love it and I kind of run at the problem always. But I know for other people, that's not always the case. So sometimes like friction maxing is definitely required if you want to like really push yourself out. Yeah, I have this difference between like my siblings and I, for example. Like some of my siblings, like they need friction maxing in their life. For me though, I've just never needed it. I don't know why. I think it maybe comes from I'm a really, really competitive person, I think within me. So I think I kind of like the idea of having friction in my life. But like I say, like I think you can use either depending on whatever it is that you're trying to work towards. Like how I would look at friction maxing is whenever I'm working, I love to just have this like entire kind of sense of self where I'm like, I have this massive project and I'm just going to give absolutely 110% of myself to it. If I have an opportunity, I'm going to do it to the best of my abilities and I'm not going to kind of like just see what happens. You know what I mean? So I think, yeah, that's probably where I would use that example. But I would love to also hear more about like the examples that what the other conversation is.
Yeah, I think there is something to say about if a task is hard at first, making
Mm,
sure to, reduce the friction in order just to get like you to head start at it.
yes.
And then it's like with dopamine, it like raises the baseline every single
Yeah.
time, you do something and it hits that thing. And so I feel like that's what friction maxing is as well. It's like
Yeah.
you can start at the lowest friction. And so say, I don't know,
line.
like reading or something. Okay, just need to read 1 page a day.
Yeah.
And then once you achieve that and you reach that baseline, then you like max it up, kind of just like you're
Yes.
turning up the thing.
Yes.
And so what examples we were giving was just like instead of taking the lift or the escalator, you walk up the stairs,
Yeah.
and things like that. I think it can be used with anything, to be honest. Like at the gym,
Yeah.
if you start at like running maybe 5 minutes and you
Yeah.
increase it to 10 and things like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's just like little things, or putting your phone on do not disturb.
Yeah.
So then you just like don't touch it, or putting your phone in a different room, and
Yeah.
just so that you don't have that.
Okay, so I would say for these habits, like exactly as you're saying, like having the different levels of the friction into those. So I think naturally, actually, I'm doing a lot of friction maxing in my habit. Using the example like the books. For me, I just wanted to read because I realized back in 2023 when I was looking at my Goodreads like review, I had read one book and I was like, what?
It's better than none.
It's better than
none,
but it's still pretty bad. Like, it's not good. So I think, yeah, definitely friction maxing. What started off as, okay, I need to read more than one book next year, turned into I read 15 books without, just trying. Because the more you do, the more you feel like doing. Same thing with the content. Like my habit of taking at least one 5-second video every single day has turned into me posting to TikTok and to Instagram 5 days a week. Same thing with the gym. For me, what turned into I want to run more turned into I run multiple half marathons now. So I think naturally, like when you can see yourself, and I think there's so much fun in kind of seeing where you can go with that friction
and
maxing
challenging
mindset.
yourself.
Exactly. Like you can start to see like the progress that you make, and from not being able to run for 5 minutes straight to being able to run over 2 hours, it's like crazy. So you can just see the progress that you can make. I think it can be a really, really addictive feeling, to be honest. And you can see what you're capable of just like but I would also like push back on that again and like think about how sometimes this has also got me into trouble, into friction maxing too much and like that's I think where it kind of ties back into consistency and like being kind and patient with yourself, where it can be pretty hard when you go from, okay, let's like use the example of running, when you run for over 2 hours, but then, for 2 hours in time, but then you take a week off and you're only able to run for an hour the next day or the next week or whatever it may be. So we don't always have our 110% max days. And I think that's been something I've had to really come to terms with and really accept within myself, and not always trying to be the absolute best every single day and always trying to like outperform myself, but just sometimes doing the bare minimum is enough, and just getting up sometimes is enough. Our best is going to look different every single day. And I think there's so much more. And what I've tried to flip it into is perform or beat my best as like before, just to be consistent and to just show up is what I'm aiming for. And I think naturally then it also gives me, I guess, like headspace and bandwidth to just enjoy that instead, as opposed to being focused on the result and like focus on like, okay, but I have to beat this and I have to do this. So yeah, I think again, like you need to kind of push and pull. It's almost like two strings that you need to like kind of have at the same time, but not to get too caught up in the results.
Yes,
Or
and the
in
outcome.
the performance.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no, definitely, I get that. And I recently just did this podcast on, is it your passion or is it obsession? And I feel like I definitely can relate on the kind of, well, I don't know if you have this, but it sounds to me like you do, just like that kind of compulsion, and like you want to like achieve and you want to do better and you want to like get, those big wins. And it's definitely hard, and definitely redefining what it means and celebrating every win, and just the process of it and just showing up is so important. And so I think where you can kind of see, is it an obsession or not, is can you let it go for a day and be completely okay?
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you're letting it go forever. It's just like, can you detach from it again? And that's the point of like having all of these multiple hobbies. It's like, if I lose this one thing, like say I don't know, broke my leg and I can't run anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I can go do reading, and I can go do, I don't know, I want to do pottery.
Yeah.
I can go do a pottery
you
class.
can
Like you can do so many different things because you have so many different interests, and you're such like a multifaceted human.
Yeah,
It's like, it's
100%.
just like one thing doesn't define you.
Exactly. And I think that also comes with, yeah, like not labeling yourself so
Yeah.
much and not attaching yourself to one thing or thinking that, oh, if I don't have this, I don't have anything. And also just, I think establishing like real confidence within yourself.
Hmm.
So as you say, like, I can go 2 days or like, yeah, a day. Let's use a day, for example,
Yeah.
and like not do any of this. And I also know and I trust myself that I can continue to do it.
Hmm.
And it's also not it's not because like of the activities that
Yeah.
I am who I am or like I have success or whatever it may be. It's more so it's just like, no, I'm
Yeah.
literally just me and I'm just doing these things and because I I enjoy them or because, I choose to do them or for whatever your reason or why may be,
Hmm.
because you want to learn before, because you want to grow, because you want to, feel better mentally.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's also, yeah, detach and there's a lot to be said for that. I don't think some days I'm better at it than others, I'd
Yeah.
say, but I think that's a journey, I think, for everyone to kind of go through.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, going into kind of like the takeaways for someone that has multiple interests in zero direction, what is the first thing that they should do this week?
I would say, like, for me, what really helps, just brain dump everything. That's another one of my habits. Journal
Love
every
it.
day. I think it's really, really handy and helpful because I think if you feel like it's also a lot in your head. It's so much in our heads. And I wake up sometimes and I have like 1,000 different things in my head, like
Oh,
plus
yeah.
plus some,
Oh, yeah.
And if you feel like you have absolutely zero direction, I think if you sit with yourself for long enough, or if say like you write it out a little bit, you'll be able to start drawing some patterns or similarities into what will actually turn into your direction.
Mm,
So I think looking into your environment, that's why I say like get it onto paper or get it out somewhere so you can kind of just have it somewhere. And then you
mhm,
also I think like leave some space in your mind to just kind of open up a bit and just allowing yourself to have all these feelings. When I feel overwhelmed, I try to turn it into like a feeling of gratitude. Sometimes
mm,
it doesn't always work like this, but a feeling of like, wow, you have so many opportunities and you have so many interests. Like you're so lucky. Like, wow, like that's incredible. You have so many things to choose from. So I know it can be hard. Or say like you've tried already you've taken everything onto the paper and you've tried to look for patterns and still there's nothing, like there's no direction there. Or maybe you have found the direction and you're like, okay, great. Like actually like this is what I'm going to start on. I'm going to start my pottery class because this is
mhm.
clearly like a pattern like with my writing and whatever
Yeah.
it is I'm doing and I'm getting the signs around me that this is like I need to do this. Then great. But say you've tried that, doesn't work. Okay, cool. Then I would say just kind of like take a step back and realize that it's not that deep. It's really like it's all good. Like we've all been there. I think telling myself it's not that deep is probably some of the best of advice that
Yeah.
I can give myself and to everyone else. I would just say like just try to pick one thing, like one thing from your list. If it's between five different things, you can even just like random close your eyes and like pick one, or just make a
Mhm,
plan and you're like, okay, well I'm gonna do each, and then I'm gonna just start one by one. And if they're bigger projects, well, I would say like try to think creatively. Like if you really can't decide, think about is there one thing that maybe I'm not even seeing here that I can actually connect all of these things that I'm like looking into? If I have all these interests in my head, is this actually is there maybe like a bigger one that like encapsulate like all of these things that I'm like struggling to choose from? I would also say like you can look into like, what are other people around you
yeah.
doing? I think this is such a common feeling to have, especially when you're so young and or maybe like you're not super young anymore and you're still struggling with this. Like this is a very, very human emotion and I think
Yeah.
like state to be in. So I think talking to other people about it and sharing that, and not necessarily to get advice, but just to speak to someone and to also sometimes just say the things out loud that you're struggling with can also
Mhm.
help draw a pattern,
Yeah,
draw a
absolutely.
conclusion too.
Yeah. I feel like, especially in marketing,
Mm,
it's like people are always telling you to choose a niche, like choose
yeah.
something to focus on and to be known for something so that people, like your audience, can connect you with something and things like that. And I know while I'm trying to build like a little bit of a community online, it's like, oh, I need to be known for this one thing. And I
Absolutely.
feel like, well, yes, it's good to have that like certainty, like that pinpoint, so then people can identify with it. I also feel like sometimes it's better not to have like a niche and things like that.
100%.
And I always struggle with going back, but should I just do this one? Like, because there's all these like signature series and things
Yes.
like that. And but like I want to talk about other things and do multiple things at once. So like,
100%.
what do you do? What I've kind of, and I'd love to hear your advice on this
Yeah.
as well. But what I've kind of done is in this like weird transition phase that I'm sure a lot of people are in. And I feel like you're forever in a
Oh,
transition.
absolutely. You're living life. You're in a transition phase.
Yes. And like a post grad, like just finished university and now like going into employment, but in this weird phase. I just started a series with that because then I can also talk about the topics that I'm passionate about,
Yes.
psychology, neuroscience, business concepts, and using those to apply to your life. But then also just being candid about things just that come up, like what does it mean to be lucky? What does it mean
Yeah.
about opportunities, networking, and connections? As you said, like kind of being creative and yes, creating a series, but also combining all these different interests.
Absolutely. And like exactly that. I think it's so funny. I was actually just having a conversation about this as well. And whenever I talk to people and I explain like what I do, like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I do a lot of things. Like I do a lot of things. And exactly that. Like I was actually journaling about it this morning. Like what is, and I still struggle with it because I think it's so easy to be pulled into this. You need a label. People need to know what you're offering. And exactly to your point, like yes, that's helpful, but at the same time, like I'm still a human being and I'm still figuring that out. And I don't think I can be consistent and also like enjoy whatever I'm doing if I'm just staying with one thing my entire life. And how scary is that, right? And also like, what if I don't want to? Like, what if I change my mind? And I think, yeah, I always kind of say like, I think my niche is that I don't have a niche. You know, there's a really, really great book that I love. It's by David Epstein. It's called Range. And it's basically talking about how to be a generalist, like to be someone who actually doesn't specialize in only one thing is actually a huge advantage in today's world. And I think especially with like coming up of AI now, that's so true. I don't think to throw yourself into one box, like actually do things because you enjoy them and because you're struggling with them. I think if you were trying to pick one thing, as you say, to pick the thing that you're struggling with or that you just genuinely have the most interest in on that day, I think is such a good place to start. And just having agency to actually go do that thing. I think that's the trick, to get out of your head and then just be a lot more action oriented. So for example, if you're trying to pick a niche for your LinkedIn, okay, like what are people going to know me for? And as you say, like, and you have this, okay, I'm out of my post grad, like, what am I doing? This is my series. Just do that. And then, just see how it evolves and just be listening to that and just continually like doing your best into that, but then actually doing it. I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. And I think that's why it's extra hard and it can be so overwhelming because you have all these ideas, but then you're stuck thinking about them and not actually doing them.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's like, that's a mindset shift, but it can be really helpful and also just seeing where it can go and seeing how it evolves. I think people can also really, really always tell, especially with content, if you're trying to make content, how disingenuous things can be.
Yeah.
Like we can all tell. And it's not even like ChatGPT, like you don't even have to create something with AI for it to appear as disingenuous. But if it's not actually crafted like from you and from your experience, or like you just didn't really enjoy doing it, I think it really can show a lot of time. And this opposite can be true as well. You can craft something with your whole heart and maybe it doesn't perform, but that's okay. But just getting into the habit and practice of creating from a space within you that's like truly authentic and like there, for me, like then the other bits don't really matter. Like I think that's like always the goal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's this concept called identity encoding, and it's about that repeated actions trains the basal ganglia. So it's like the habit formation and all of that bit. And so you go from saying like, I think the power of like saying I am someone, like I am someone who's creating content instead of I'm trying to, also creates that. And then again, it's like that evidence of that action then forms that identity. It's not like the identity forms the action.
Yeah.
It's like being proactive and actually doing the bits really help.
Absolutely.
Okay, I want to go into a clarity round that I normally do. I do it for myself, but I also do it for my guests. It's just like a rapid fire round, and you kind of say like one sentence, one thing on your mind, you're not thinking about it. Yeah.
Cool.
So what is the last thing you've Googled at midnight?
I think it was, is Vatican City open on Sundays? That's literally what it was.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Love to travel.
Yes, love to travel.
What was it?
and it was, thankfully.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So go to Vatican City at midnight. What is one piece of advice that you delete from the internet?
Probably that you have to, it's almost like the opposite, but you know how like you have to like become an expert in order to be successful. I think, that's probably what mine would be. Or more so, it's almost like you have to like know enough before you start. And like you have to like kind of wait and you kind of have to bide your time. There's no perfect time. people have created the most incredible things with having absolutely zero like education or knowledge or experience
Hmm.
within the fields that they're building. Like it is insane how just effort and consistency and just like an actual willingness to do
Hmm.
something can how far that can get you. So much more than say experience or knowledge or connections even. Like those all come with time, but you have to start. There has to be a starting point, and then you just keep going, and then you take all those things. So yeah, I would say not so that much like you have to wait for the perfect time, but also you have to have like some level of experience in whatever it is that you're trying to build in order to actually be able to go out and build it, or before you should start to build it.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's very similar to a piece of advice that I got in an interview of just you can teach people how to do the hard skills like sell and all of
Yep.
that, but you can't teach them drive or passion. And
No,
so once you got that, I feel like you can do pretty much anything.
100%.
Yeah, it's a
100%.
mindset. It really
It's
is.
it's
What is something that you've had to unlearn to level up?
overthinking. Overthinking. I would always think that I was just a strategic, thoughtful person. And I think, yes, I am those things, but
Hmm.
I think overthinking can easily be disguised. Overthinking has always been something I've struggled with. And so it's definitely something that I've had to unlearn. Yeah, learning the opposite is true and just having a bit more lightness and a bit
Hmm.
more you can like laugh at at yourself and at your failures
Hmm.
and actually understand that like failure is probably one of the greatest things that can happen to you as a person in the right circumstances, of course. But like I think yeah, like redefining failure as well, like redefining that word and not just seeing it as a negative thing, but actually as an opportunity to learn and to grow from and to like fall forward, you fail forward. Yeah, like, be thankful for, like, just
Yeah.
it's literally the greatest thing.
No, yeah, I
We
think
love
failure
failure.
is great.
It's
It's like lessons learned. It's like a free lesson for you.
it's free. It's
Yeah.
literally free, and, like, you just can only get better.
Yeah.
So,
I know
yeah.
it's like you hit rock bottom, only way is
Yeah,
up.
exactly. We love it. We love rock bottom.
And then who are you clearly becoming?
What I try to do every day and just, like, not just with my career, but with my life and with my connections is, like,
Mhm.
I try to learn a little bit more about myself every single day, and I think I do that through conversations, I do
Mhm.
that through experiences, I do that through, projects and work that I do that through traveling. So I think, the answer is very much it's always changing because it's like very fluid, but it's almost like a feeling that I
Mm.
have instead of like a definition of like the person that I'm becoming. And I think that's always like what I try to like align to more. So it's
Mhm.
like, what is that internal feeling? It's more just does this feel like I'm on the right path? Like, does this feel like something that, the person I know I'm capable of becoming and I
Mm.
want to become would be doing, be saying?
I
I
love that. Forever a learner.
100%. I would also I want to
Yeah.
hear your answer to this too.
Who am I clearly becoming? I think I don't think it really changed from the last week that I did this. Because I mean, some things just
Yeah,
don't.
yeah,
They need
that's
a
so
little bit
true.
of time to just sit. But I think something that I'm clearly becoming is not having it all figured out at the
Mm,
time. For me, I love a plan and I love structure. And so it's really hard when I don't have something like concrete for me to look at. But I think the best bits of life are sometimes when you just don't know what's going to happen. Because then, as you said, and I feel like we've talked about in this episode, it's like you're planting the seeds, you're doing everything that you can. And now you just have to trust that there's something that's going to
yeah,
happen because you've done everything that you can do. And just having the freedom to, in this time of not knowing, just like to experiment and
yeah,
to see people and do things that maybe you couldn't if you did have something all figured out all the time. And how boring would life be if you had it all figured
100%,
out? You wouldn't
100%.
have stories to tell.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's not the point. And I remember I was once having a conversation because I was like overwhelmed, I think,
Mm.
like with work. Oh my gosh, I have so many things to do. And it was my like colleague who said this, but she's like, Erica, like you're never gonna be finished. You're never gonna have everything figured out. And that's the entire point. And I
Yeah.
think enjoying that and like being thankful for that, I think that's so much of where you can kind of start to just realize you're like, I can breathe, Like
Yes.
it's okay. Like this
Yeah.
is part of being a
Life,
human being.
adulting. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the cool part. Why are we fighting it? But yeah, I think also to like answer your question, like I think for me, just always doing my best, like at like whatever it is that I'm trying to do. Like
Yeah.
what is your best today? Like is your best showing up for yourself more today?
Mhm.
Is your best, yeah, going and working 10 hours on a really like insane project that you're wanting to work on? Or
Mhm.
is your best just having a conversation with a friend and just
Yeah.
sitting there, But to like actually show up for that and to be present and to be aware as opposed to just in your head and kind of thinking like off and away. I think that's like a really, really big form of like how I come and
Yeah.
be my best is like having more awareness within my life, the moments that I have. Just,
Yeah. No, that's great. And I feel
Yeah.
like if you're always are so fixated on like what's happening and all those overwhelming feelings, and you miss out on the opportunities that you can
Yes.
just that are just
They're just
passing by.
there.
There's so
Yeah.
many, and sometimes we're so enclosed because we can only pay so much attention to things. So once you
100%.
kind of let it go, you can like see so
Yeah.
much more open to you.
And the more you talk about it, the more you discover, and you're like, actually, maybe that's like actually like what I meant. That's the whole point. And like that's also like why these conversations are so valuable.
So valuable.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I
Yes,
had
of
such a good
course.
time, and I definitely think a lot of the listeners can get a lot out about it and just the importance of consistency and redefining success and what your best version is. And yeah, there's always a spectrum, and you're evolving as a human. And so, yeah, I took away so much from this.
No,
So I'm
same.
sure other people can as well. And if there's one thing, get it out of your head and then
Mm.
just act. I think
Yeah.
that was the main lesson. Yeah, thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming
thank
on.
you.